Okay, so let's be honest for a second. With Meghan Markle, it was never just about Meghan. It was always about the story wrapped around her, the layers, the edits, the rewrites, the way the narrative keeps shifting every time people get a little too close to the truth. And lately, something feels different, heavier, like the mask is slipping and nobody knows which version they're supposed to believe anymore. For years, we were sold one image. Meghan the self-made woman, Meghan the activist, Meghan the survivor of a cruel, racist, sexist media machine. And yes, some of that story holds weight. No one's denying that. But there has always been this uncomfortable pause, this nagging feeling that something was missing, like a page was ripped out of the book and replaced with glossy PR photos and carefully chosen words. And if you trace every strange turn, every contradiction, every unexplained gap, it always leads back to one place: her family, specifically her parents, Thomas Markle and Doria Ragland. Now, Thomas has been dragged through the mud for years, painted as the villain, the embarrassing dad, the paparazzi-loving, interview-giving, attention-seeking mess who supposedly ruined everything. And sure, he made mistakes, big ones. But here's the part that rarely gets talked about. He was also the parent who actually raised Meghan during her teenage years. We're talking private schools, tuition checks, showing up, being there, handling the daily grind of parenting when things weren't glamorous or camera-ready. He wasn't some absentee figure lurking in the background. By almost every account, he was the primary caregiver when Meghan was growing up. So then the obvious question hits you hard: where was Doria? And that's where the story gets weird, because nobody ever gives a straight answer. You hear vague phrases tossed around like smoke bombs. She was absent. She was away. She was doing her own thing. Okay, but what does that mean? Away where? For how long? Months? Years? And why does nobody ever give a clear timeline? That silence is loud. And when you don't give people facts, they fill in the blanks themselves. That's not gossip culture, that's human nature. What makes it even stranger is how the roles flipped later. Thomas, the father who raised her, is completely cut off, frozen out, erased. Meanwhile, Doria gets the front row seat at the royal wedding, smiling for the cameras, calm, collected, presented as the perfect supportive mother. Make it make sense. If Thomas was such a monster, why was he trusted with Meghan's upbringing? And if Doria was always this stable presence, where was she during those formative years? The math doesn't math, and people feel it. Then there's the way Thomas was discarded over paparazzi photos. Staged photos, yes, but is that really a life sentence? Especially when the man has serious health issues? The punishment never seemed to match the crime. It felt personal, like there was something else underneath the anger, something deeper. And then came that moment on GB News, the one that made people sit up straight. A panelist casually claimed Doria went to prison. Just dropped it out there, no build-up, no apology. Now here's the thing, if that claim was completely false, it would have been shut down instantly. Meghan Markle is not shy when it comes to lawyers. She has sued media outlets for far less. But what happened instead? Awkward laughter, silence, a quick subject change, no immediate denial, no legal threat, nothing. And that silence screamed louder than any accusation. Because when someone who normally fights everything suddenly says nothing, people start asking why. That vacuum pulled old rumors back into the spotlight. The missing years, the vague explanations, the uncomfortable gaps in the timeline. And suddenly it didn't feel like random gossip anymore. It felt like a cover-up held together by silence. Because here's the truth, rumors don't survive for decades unless something keeps feeding them. And in this case, it's the refusal to provide a simple, consistent explanation. If there was an innocent reason for Doria's absence, it would have been clarified years ago, cleanly, clearly. Instead, every attempt to smooth it over only created more confusion. Then came Netflix. With Love, Meghan, supposedly her safe space, her chance to finally control the narrative, to tell her truth without interference. And yet, it landed flat. No cultural moment, no massive wave of support, no real buzz. And what was most telling? Netflix didn't even bother editing out the awkward moments, the pauses, the uncomfortable reactions, the moments where Meghan seemed to be waiting for validation that never came. It felt like Netflix was quietly stepping back, creating distance, almost like they were preparing for something to shift. And people noticed. They started watching closer, rewinding clips, analyzing facial expressions, reading between the lines, and those old questions came roaring back. Then, unbelievably, the old sex tape rumor resurfaced. Again, a story that should have been buried years ago. Some Hollywood guy claiming he was offered it. Normally, stories like that get nuked immediately. Cease and desist letters, lawsuits, silence enforced. But this one just lingered. Now, nobody is saying it's real, there's no proof, but the lack of aggressive denial is strange. The absence of legal action is strange. The way it keeps resurfacing like a bad penny is strange, and it feeds the growing belief that there are things they don't want examined too closely. Then People magazine tried to step in and clean it all up. The glowing article, fully aligned, no friction, stronger than ever. Please. That's not how people talk when things are genuinely good. That's PR language, damage control language, the kind of thing you release when you're trying to calm a narrative that's slipping out of your control. And it backfired, because confident people don't need to announce how confident they are. The harder they tried to reassure, the more suspicious it felt. And this isn't just about family drama anymore. It's bigger than that. It's about media manipulation, about how certain narratives are protected while uncomfortable questions are ignored, about power, image, and control. What's different now is who is asking the questions. It's not just critics anymore. It's people from all backgrounds, all perspectives. You can't just dismiss everyone as hateful or jealous. The old playbook isn't working. Something shifted. People are starting to see through the carefully constructed image, and the more aggressively the narrative is controlled, the more people push back. That's why this story refuses to die. It feels unfinished. The missing years, the contradictions, the treatment of Thomas Markle, none of it has been addressed honestly, and people don't need proof to feel suspicious. They just need that gut feeling that something isn't right. And right now, a lot of people feel it. They're rewinding interviews, comparing timelines, watching body language, looking for cracks. So what happens next? No one really knows, but it doesn't feel like this is anywhere near over, because here's what this all really looks like. This mess isn't random. It's the result of a world obsessed with image, where people rewrite history, cut off family members, and gaslight the public to protect the brand. And Meghan? She's incredibly skilled at this game, playing the victim, manipulating media narratives, curating an image so carefully that it feels airtight until it doesn't, because cracks always show eventually. Look at the Sussex Survivors Club. Former staffers reportedly terrified to speak. That alone says more than any interview ever could. And the idea that Harry has to rein in her behavior? That's not a compliment. That's damage control inside a marriage. And Doria, maybe she's not just the quiet, supportive mom everyone thinks she is. Maybe she's an enabler. Or worse, the architect. Think about it. She's been there from the beginning, helping Meghan navigate Hollywood, shaping her image, controlling the story, always presented as calm, untouchable, above criticism. What if that's just another facade? What if protecting Meghan meant sacrificing Thomas, rewriting family history, erasing inconvenient truths? It wouldn't be the first time a parent did whatever it took to protect their child's interests, and the media played along, afraid of backlash, afraid of labels, too eager to embrace a narrative that made them feel morally safe. They ignored red flags, glossed over inconsistencies. Let the story be dictated instead of questioned. But the tide is turning. The Netflix deal is wobbling. Public trust is thinning. The questions are getting sharper. And the carefully curated image is starting to crumble. No one knows how this ends. Maybe Meghan finally addresses the missing years. Maybe she doubles down and tightens control even more. Or maybe she fades out, leaving behind the wreckage of a story that couldn't hold together forever. One thing is certain, this story isn't done. There are too many unanswered questions, too many inconsistencies, too many people unwilling to stop digging. And as long as that's true, this mess will keep fascinating, dividing, and exposing everything that was supposed to stay hidden. Was supposed to stay hidden. Was supposed to stay